I'm on.
Should have had it to us on Thursday. I'm not reading it. That's how the school always does it. Good evening. I'll call this meeting to order, October 20th, 2015. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the first item, please.
Is roll call. Counselor Garrison?
Present.
Counselor Lunt?
Here.
Counselor McTevier?
Here.
Counselor Bickford?
Here.
Counselor Crafts?
Here.
Counselor Pesky?
Here.
And Counselor Brunel.
Here.
The next item, please.
Good news and recognition.
Open the floor for council for any good news and recognition.
Yeah, I've got something.
Very good.
I attended a meeting with Unitil last week, and it looks like when the DOT decides to redo the entire Main Street, that they're willing to go along and put gas line in at a minimal cost. I thought that was very good. It was their, basically, I thought it was their original proposal of if the trench was dug, they'd put the pipe in for nothing, and I think that's the way it looks like it's gonna be. So that would help the town immensely.
Bless you, whoever that was. Very good. That's something that you've been working on for a long time. You've been working with staff in Unitil, so it's great to hear that progress. Anything else from council?
I have a couple of things, Dylan.
Manager Barnes.
Just want to remind everybody about the Harvest Festival on October 24th, Saturday, from 3 to 5:30 at the MTM Center. I know I went last year, and it was a great time, so hopefully everybody can show their support and attend this event. And I also got a call from somebody who was involved in an accident on 10-6 in front of McDonald's, and they just wanted me to know how helpful and professional our public safety employees were, the police and fire, at that accident, and they wanted me to express that to everybody at the meeting tonight. That's it.
Very good. It's one thing that does not go unnoticed is our public safety in this town. It's always been good, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. It's under good administration. Anything else?
I'd just like to thank all the candidates that did come out, those that came out to listen to them, and that their voices were heard, and encourage you to get out and vote on November 3rd.
Anything else?
Well, I'd like to also thank all the people who came out and saw the candidates tonight. It's really important that people get involved in our local government and see what's going on and actually have the information and see who they're voting and know what they're doing. And thank you.
Anything else? I'll piggyback on Councilor Mativier and Councilor Lunt. It was great to see everybody come out tonight for meet the candidates. Lisbon is at a crossroads, and this election will be the future direction of Lisbon. I might not agree with all the candidates, but I wish every candidate the best of luck. And it's a great process that we have here in the United States to have voting. And I encourage everybody to get out and vote and move forward. And with that being said, we'll close this portion of the agenda and move on to the next item, please.
Public hearings, the 2015-16 school budget.
Good evening. I would like to start with some good news on the school side, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We are having our grand opening of the gymnasium on November 1st at 1 p.m. So I know I'd send invitations to each of you and all the members of the community. So we're hoping that everyone is able to attend and take a look at the results of the investment that the community members have made for the school department. It's pretty impressive. With that, I did provide copies for the community, updated subsidy comparison sheets, the actual warrant articles, and the biggest difference between this particular budget in the last budget is that we did include, or the school committee included, the $304,551 for the proceeds from the projects to help offset the cost of our budget. Earlier today, around, I think it was 1:15, we received an official position from our bond counsel that I forwarded to the town manager that I know you each received. And ultimately, there are three options that I just wanted to share. The first option would be to just use the remaining bond proceeds to pay for the interest of the different projects, which is what the 145, I believe, thousand that we had in our budget for at the last referendum. The second option is to utilize, and that would mean just for that first option would mean that you would just use the remaining bond proceeds from the track to pay the interest on the track, and you'd use the remaining bond proceeds for the gym to pay the interest on the gym only. The second option would be that you would use the remaining bond proceeds from both projects to pay the interest on both of those projects. Now, there are some documentation that we would have to be responsible for, but our attorneys felt that that would allow the use of those funds to be utilized earlier than the 7 years that the first option. And what that means is the track, in order to pay the interest on the track, it's going to take it's going to take almost 7 years. So what you would do is after 3 years, you would have to put that, I believe, in an escrow and pay somebody to manage it and make sure that the documentation is submitted. The third option, which is the option that the school committee would prefer, is that you could use the remaining bond proceeds to pay the interest and the principal on both projects, and this would result in the utilization of all the remaining funds as early as next November, and then you wouldn't have to worry about having these conversations anymore. So that is obviously the position, again, same of the new bond counsel that we're hired, and for the most part, again, the budget, that's the biggest change, is just the use of the proceeds from the project. I'll be more than happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Any questions from council before we move on to the public hearing portion?
The last thing is, just one more thing, sorry, is that it would actually be a decrease. Our original budget that we started with was a flat, or no increase on the local taxes. This proposed budget would be a $93,889 decrease in local taxes.
Could you repeat that one more time?
$93,889, yep.
How come we got this documentation so late?
I just received it. If you looked at the email that I forwarded to you, it came at 1:15 from the attorneys.
We didn't really have any time to
I didn't
rebut,
know.
go to our bond counsel to do anything to see what's what. It's getting to the point where, to me, it's gonna look like it's gonna be a bunch of lawyers settling this thing.
I think there's been a lot of attorneys involved from the start, so
Yeah.
I don't see why it's going to change. The email is date stamped, so you can see that I just received it like 1:15 and sent it over at 2-something. I mean, he sent it to me at 1:15. I sent it over as soon as
Right.
I had it. I sent it to the school committee first, and there was like maybe 10 minutes before I sent it out to the town manager. So I don't know when you received it, but it was shortly after I received an email that said it was sent out, so I don't think it was very long.
Any other comments, questions from council? Okay. I know I will piggyback on what Council Bickford said. I haven't read the legal opinion from your council. And I haven't read your legal opinion from your council because you sent it to the town manager at 2:39, which she then sent to us right after. I opened it, a 5-page document. I didn't have time to read it. And I'm not going to pause the council right now to read that document. But what I do have and what I do remember is our position from our own bond counsel that would be the ones representing us if we end up in court or to the IRS. And that bond counsel cannot recommend to propose or to do the expenditure of the bond proceeds. But I'll elaborate a little more on that when we get down to that portion of the agenda. Any other comments or questions from council for Superintendent Green? See none, thank you. I'll open the floor for audience participation regarding the school budget. Ask you to keep the comments at 2 minutes or less. State your name and address, and we'll get started. Ms. Jurgen.
Kathy Yergin, 2 Highland Ave, Lisbon Falls. I just have a question about the absentee ballots. I've asked some questions, but no one seems to answer. The absentee ballots have been mailed out, and I have spoken to a couple citizens, senior citizens, in fact, that you're very concerned about, and their absentee ballots do not include the school referendum on them. So, you have told everyone that November's ballot is the only one that counts in your minds, that it's a special interest group otherwise. So how are these people at home that cannot get out vote on the school budget if you're rushing absentee ballots out without you voting on the school budget? Thank you.
I'll address that comment during the public portion, not the public hearing. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the council for the school budget? Well, there we go. We'll close the public hearing, and we will move on to the next item, please.
Audience participation or response for agenda items?
Open the floor for audience participation regarding agenda items. See, Ms. Fitzgerald.
Dorothy Fitzgerald, School Street, Lisbon Falls. On the agenda, you have MDOT agreement, and I printed it out. Project WIN 14862, Main Street. It doesn't, there are 3 or 4 projects here. It doesn't say if they're water line, sewer line, drainage, or paving. So I'd like an explanation, what are these individual projects for? Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else? All right, Ms. Fitzgerald, I have multiple questions on that same agenda item. If your question isn't answered within our discussion, please raise your hand so I know that your question wasn't answered, and we'll see what we can do to get it answered for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone else have a response? I know the answer for the absentee ballots, but Ms. Lysette, would you like to respond on the process on why the school budget wasn't involved and once it's already gone out, please?
Sure. At this point in time, when you request an absentee ballot, you're getting your state ballot and you're getting your annual municipal ballot, and your school ballot will be mailed, if you've asked for that to be mailed, will be mailed as soon as tomorrow morning. I have maybe 20, 25 of those absentee ballots being all set to go. We have to include into that envelope the cost summary that Mr. Superintendent Green will be giving us tonight, and so a copy of that summary and their absentee ballot goes into the envelope, and then it's mailed to the voter, and then they get to vote on it. The ballot itself just says, do you approve the school budget adopted on October the 20th, but it doesn't give the amount, and so it's necessary to wait until tomorrow before we can mail those out. But for those that have asked for their absentee ballots to be mailed, they would get the first 2 types, the state and the annual ballot now, and then they would get their school ballot mailed to them later. It's automatically, unless they ask me not to, or they've indicated that they'll be back. Some of them have said, no, I'll be back, or that they didn't want to vote at all. They'd wait until I could get all 3 at once. So there's variations of how that's working. But certainly, if you know of somebody who has not got their school ballot, then they need to call, and we'll be glad to mail it to them. Okay.
Thank you very much. It's another good point for the public to know. And we'll move on to the next item, please.
The consent agenda. Any item wish to be removed, they be removed now.
Open
I
the floor.
see. Order 2015-307 to approve the minutes of September 3 and October 6.
Open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
And the next item, please.
Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, order 2015-308, the 2015-16 school budget warrant articles.
In our packet, we have the presentation of the Lisbon School Department Committee 2015-2016 warrant articles as of 10/7/2015. It starts on page 21, and it wraps up on page 26 of our packet. Before we get into any of these, does the council want to have any discussion on anything? Or do you want to go article by article, and we can discuss those individual articles at that time if there's any discussion? Okay. In order, so we'll move this along pretty quick. We'll go ahead and start with article number 1, please.
Okay, Article 1, to see what sum the council will authorize the Lisbon School Department to appropriate for the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. Recommend $13,764,132, and to see what sum the council will raise as the town's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act in accordance with the Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20A, Section 15688. School Committee recommends $4,412,240.
Open the floor for motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Is there a second to Council Bickford's motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. And we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yes.
Counselor Mativier?
Yes.
Counselor Brunel?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
We have 7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed.
And article number 2, please.
Article number 2, to see what sum the council will authorize the Lisbon School Department to raise and appropriate for the annual payments on debt service previously approved by the legislative body for non-state funded school construction projects or non-state funded portions of school construction projects in addition to the funds appropriated as the local share of the school administrative unit's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12. Amount recommended, $477,356.
I'll open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Brunel?
Yes.
Counselor McTevier?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
And Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed.
And article number 3, please.
Article number 3, shall the town of Lisbon raise and appropriate $599,425 in additional local funds which exceeds the state's essential programs and services allocation model by $305,606 as required to fund the budget recommended by the school committee. The school committee recommends $599,425 for additional local funds and gives the following reasons for exceeding the state's essential programs and services funding model by $305,606. The school committee recommends $599,425.
Open the floor for a motion.
I'd like to make an amendment to that motion.
Go ahead with it.
Well, actually, it's just a motion, right?
Just a
at this
motion
point
to that,
without it.
yeah.
Yeah, what's the amount?
I recommend to raise and appropriate $551,551 in additional local funds.
We have a motion from Councilor Bickford. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion, a second from Councilor Mativier. Any other discussion?
Is that amount 551,551?
Yep.
Thank you.
This is the same amount that we have done so far for the additional local funds. This amount, if my calculations are right, and I'm assuming because Council Bickford had the same, this would bring the our directive to reduce that line by $600,000 down to the amount that we have given directive for. Do you have something?
I thought it was 515 is what you had done before, not 551, but maybe I'm wrong.
Let's see. Calculators. You are right. Thank you for looking out for that. So I will make an amendment to members of the public. We can hear everything that goes on up here, so please keep the voices down. If you want to have a discussion, please go outside of the room. It is very distracting for those public that will be watching on TV. your voices echo and the mics pick it up. I will offer an amendment to Councilor Bickford's motion to raise and appropriate, $515,551 in additional local funds. Is there a second to my motion?
A second.
All right. Any other discussion?
I think the school department has made an effort to try to compromise with us, and I don't see us doing that back to them. I think we need to try to be some reciprocal compromise there.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right.
I just want to talk to Mark. The way I look at it, in November, if the people don't vote for it, or whatever, then we're gonna have to give it to them anyways.
Okay. Any other discussion? I know Councilor Garrison was moving his mic. Do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Roll call vote on my motion, please.
Okay, the amendment for 515551, Counselor Bickford,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
No.
Counselor Brunel,
Yes.
Counselor McTevier,
Yes.
Counselor Crafts,
Yes.
Counselor Piskey,
Yes.
and Counselor Garrison.
No.
We have 5 yeas and 2 noes. The amendment passed. On the main motion as amended.
So we'll go back to the original motion from Councilor Bickford and Councilor Mativier.
As amended to
Correct.
515551. We'll do another roll call vote.
Any discussion on this motion? Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Counselor Bickford,
Yes.
Counselor Lunt,
No.
Counselor Brunel,
Yes.
Counselor McTevier,
Yes.
Counselor Crafts,
Yes.
Counselor Pesky,
Yes.
and Counselor Garrison.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes and 2 no. Order passed. As amended.
Okay. Due to Article 3 being changed, we will skip Article 4. We will come back to that because that budget number will need to be changed as well. And Article 5, please.
Article 5, to see if the council will authorize the Lisbon School Department to appropriate $152,858 for adult education and raise $106,878 as the local share, with authorization to expend any additional incidental or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for the well-being of the adult education program.
On the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to recommend yes.
Is there a second to Councilor Bickford's motion?
Second.
Councilor Mativier, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor McTevier?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yes.
Counselor Brunel?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
And Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays, order passed.
And Article number 6, please.
Article 6, to see what sum the council will authorize the Lisbon School Department to expend for adult education. School committee recommends $168,672.
Open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Brunel?
Yes.
Counselor McTevier?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yes.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
7 yeses, 0 nays, order passed.
And Article number 7, please.
Article 7, in addition to amounts approved in the preceding articles, shall the council authorize the school committee to expend sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for the school purposes, provided that such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated. School committee recommends yes.
Open the floor for a motion.
I recommend yes. Make a nomination to recommend yes.
Motion, do you have a second?
Yes.
Motion from Councilor Mativier. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yes.
Counselor McTevier?
Yes.
Counselor Brunel?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
And Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 nays, order passed.
Article number 8, please.
Article 8, shall the council of the town of Lisbon authorize expenditure of $43,260 from the school department capital reserve fund to be applied to the following plant maintenance and remodeling expenses in the fiscal year 2016. Lisbon School Department budget, initial payment for the guaranteed performance contract lease not covered by energy savings. School committee recommends $43,260.
Open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to recommend.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Bickford and a second from Councilor Mativier. Any discussion? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Burnell?
Yes.
Counselor McTevier?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
And Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
7 yes, 0 nays. Order passed.
And Article number 9, please.
Article 9, shall the council of the town of Lisbon authorize expenditure of $304,551 of the remaining proceeds from the bonds issued by the town of Lisbon for the gym and track projects at Lisbon High School to pay the principal and interest on the bonds. School committee recommends $304,551.
Open the floor for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that the town council of Lisbon authorize the amount of $154,237 of the remaining proceeds from the bond and the track gym for the projects to pay on just the interest on the bonds.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilor Mativier. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Oh, wait.
And that's for both bonds? You mean
Yes, it's from
bonds as
both
in
bonds, yeah.
plural? Okay.
Looking through my school budget binder here, it appears that $154,237 is the same number that we did last time. Going back to the discussion on the legal opinions, this memo that came through from the superintendent's office to the town manager to send to us is a 5-page document that I haven't had the privilege to read yet, as my schedule didn't allow for me to read something so late. But what we do know, and the fact that I'm going to stay on, I don't know about the rest of the council, is our bond counsel, which are the ones that will be representing us if we get audited by the IRS or we get brought to court for some reason, says that they cannot recommend the expenditure as the school committee has presented. They recommend that we can only spend the $154,237, and that's something that I support because they are the bond counsel that we hired to represent us. Obviously, an attorney is going to look out for their client in the best interest, and the school's attorneys are not looking out we're not their client, the school committee is. And the second piece I would add is I have a memo here that was just passed to me that also our, not only our bond counsel doesn't recommend it, but our legal counsel for everything else that the town deals with also does not recommend that we move on the action that the school committee has presented. Therefore, I will be supporting Councilor Mativier's motion. Any other discussion on this? All right. Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Garrison?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yes.
Counselor McTevier?
Yes.
Counselor Burnell?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
Yes.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Order passed.
That'll bring us back to page number 22. Be Article 4, please.
Article 4, to see what sum the council will authorize the Lisbon School Committee to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016 from the town's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. Non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools. School committee recommends $15,272,598.
I'll make a motion for the council to authorize the Lisbon School Committee to expend for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016 from the town in the amount of $15,038,410, repeating $15,038,410, which includes $154,237 in bond proceeds for the interest from the bond proceeds. Is there a second to my motion?
Second?
We have a motion, and we have a second from Councilor Mativier. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
It's 15,038,410.
Affirmative.
Okay. Counselor Mativier?
Yes.
Counselor Brunel?
Yes.
Counselor Crafts?
Yes.
Counselor Pesky?
Yes.
Counselor Lunt?
No.
Counselor Bickford?
Yes.
And Counselor Garrison?
No.
We have 5 yeas, 2 nays, order passed.
And Madam Clerk, according to your records, have we completed all the articles?
We have.
Very good. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next item as soon as the clerk is ready.
Order 2015-309, Town Office Roof Replacement.
Ryan, good evening.
Following last meeting, we contacted the low bidder for the metal roofing option. Unfortunately, they would not be able to start that project until May of 2016. We then went to the next lowest bidder, which is Jar Management Incorporated. They had indicated that they would be able to start, his latest email said that he'd be able to start as soon as next week, which actually would be this week, if the materials were available. So the impression I have is that he could start right away. Our recommendation at this point, if we are to go forward with the metal roofing option, would be to award it to Jar Management Incorporated for the $97,750.
Open the floor for a motion, then we can have some discussion.
I'll make the motion to accept the.
I'll second that.
And that's with the recommendation from?
Yes.
Okay.
Jar Management.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. I'll open the floor for any discussion that we have. Councilor Lunt?
Do we have any experience with Jar Management, or are you familiar with them?
I have never used it.
Okay, where are they based out of?
Augusta, I believe.
Augusta, okay. Have you checked into them just to see what their reputation is?
I have not checked any references at this point.
You check some references before we actually pay them?
I would propose the question of, if we vote tonight to move forward with this, what constitutes positive recommendations to authorize the expenditure? Because they're not going to do the work without getting paid.
Right.
Well, I'm assuming they'll warranty their work. I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
Well, I think what Mark's getting at is, you look at what happens with the Lisbon Community School, look what happened to this building. The people that built it went out of business. You know, I think that, I think if I'm reading into you correctly, that's what you're getting at.
Right, I just want to make sure that's a, reputable company that does it before and has been around and is going to be around in the future. Because I just don't know them at all.
Can we accept the bid with give the bid, but with a stipulation that if Ryan finds some problems, that they don't get it either?
They're doing work for DOT right now. That's the project that they're finishing up before they were to move on to this one, so I don't anticipate that being a real issue, but I will certainly follow up on those concerns.
Someone could offer a friendly amendment or a formal amendment to the amendment or the motion that we have, that this is contingent upon approval from the Public Works Director and the Town Manager.
I'll make that amendment.
All right. We have a second to Council Bickford's amendment?
I'll second that.
All right. All right, so now we'll bring the discussion to the amendment that has been offered by Councilor Bickford and Councilor Lunt. Any comments or questions on that?
So the amendment again is that this is contingent upon the Public Works and Town Manager receiving positive references and their
Approval of those
Approval,
references.
okay.
All right, let's vote on the amendment as presented.
7-0.
Okay.
The amendment passed, so the main motion is for the $97,750 with the amendment, the stipulation that it be approved by the Public Works Director and the Town Manager. Correct?
All right, we'll bring it back to the main motion that's presented by Councilor Bickford and Councilor Garrison. Do you have anything?
Just a quick check. according to this. They've been in construction for over 30 years, done the management for 10, and they're in the process of adding a concrete division, so I think they might be around for a while. If that
It's good to hear that,
makes it
yes.
feel better.
One of the go ahead. You have anything? All right. One of the questions that I had from last time, and I'm assuming that the administration has looked at it. Can you go over how that we're going to fund this?
I can. I just wanted to just follow up with what Ryan said. Restoration's home remodeling, Tyler was in to see me first thing this morning, and he just wanted me to know that if he did get the bid, the earliest he could start would be August. So he changed it from May to August. And I told him that that probably likely wouldn't happen because we really need to have the roof done now. And he said he was fine with that, not a problem. He said he's got a lot of work that he's doing, and he said that is not a problem. But I just wanted you to know it wouldn't have been May, it would have been August. The efficiency main rebates total $40,541. The amount we're going to get back from the IRS for the QECB loan would be approximately $25,000. I estimated a portion of the fuel savings, because we had an attractive fuel rate that we locked in with, of about $5,025. I would like you to use a portion of those Main State Retirement, the refund that we got back, approximately $5,000 of that. We anticipate receiving workers' comp dividends totaling approximately $14,000. And then you have your sale of town-owned property that currently has $78,000 in it. So I would recommend that you set aside $10,000, and that actually exceeds the amount of the roof. That comes to $99,566. So we could use more from fuel savings, but we just learned this week that we have an issue in the building here with a heat exchanger, and we've already received one quote. That's going to be a little over $8,000, so I wanted to use the additional estimated savings on the fuel to pay for that purchase, and we do need to get that done because it's leaking, and people have been complaining this week because of the smell of gas in the building. So, and also the proceeds from, not the proceeds, but the insurance money from the thermal imaging camera, there's about $2,050 left in that, so we could tap into that too if you didn't want to use the sale of town-owned property or as right now. So we can come up with it.
All right. That satisfies me, as long as I know we're not going to be coming back to us to tap into undesignated, or we're going to come back and say, oh, these lines are all in the red because we had to do this for the roof. So that satisfies my appetite. Any other discussion on here? Okay. What did you guys decide on the roof color?
Gray.
What, not orange?
Not Moxie orange?
That wasn't an option.
All right. Any other discussion here? All right. Well, all those in favor of the original motion?
As amended. Okay, order passed, 7-0.
Thank you very much for that information, Diane and Ryan. And the next item, please.
Order 2015-310, the Maine Department of Transportation Agreement.
Hello.
So, as my memo states, there are currently 3 projects scheduled, or they're currently in the design phase, and I kind of spelled out the extent of the projects. At this point, we anticipated on receiving the 3-party agreements, which would be for design and right-of-way only at this point, and we'd be requesting permission to sign those. We have not received those to date. The gist of it is that it's got to go to ATRC first. They need to approve the amended 3-party agreements, and then they would, from their part, and then it would come back here to us. The projects are from 196, our main street, from Route 196 to Houston Street is the one section, and then from Houston Street to the Urban Compact Line is another section. And then the third project is actually the intersection of Main Street, Canal Street, 196. The improvements that were recommended during the bridge reconstruction project public hearings. That would be a lane shift and left turn arrows and whatnot. The my understanding at this point, the preliminary engineering and right-of-way is being done under a safety project through DOT, which would not require local match, I believe. But then construction and construction engineering would be the portion that we would be involved with. That I'm not 100% sure of, because we've gone back and forth so many times until I see the actual agreement in writing. I'll leave it at that. The Main Street from 196 to Houston Street has increased, the preliminary engineering increased from 36,000 to 150,000, and right-of-way increased from 0 to 100,000 because of issues with drainage that we anticipate having to deal with, mainly downtown from Main Street, from 196 out towards, well, all the way out to Houston, but majority of the expensive work would be right Main Street, you know, to school and that area. The other project from Houston Street to the Urban Compact Line, the preliminary engineering increased as well from 186,000 to 225, and the right-of-way increased from 1 penny to 100,000. I'm not sure how things got programmed there, but when we get the agreements, basically we're looking at needing to raise locally somewhere around 100 to 150. I can't remember the full math there, but it's going to be a significant amount. But there'll be 3 different projects that we'll have to do. I mean, I wish I had the actual agreements, and they were supposed to have them for us, but then as we were going through and they were drafting them, it got pushed off. So we didn't want to take it off the agenda because we wanted to be at least have a discussion about the projects and what's happening when we sign the agreements. But I don't know if I can thoroughly confuse everyone or.
So we're responsible for 10% of the project. So that's how it gets to the 100 to 150,000. Project number 1, the increase in that project is because they're going to do a complete reconstruction, and that's what's going to allow Unitel to put down the pipeline for natural gas. That's why they've changed their minds, and they're going to do that, and it will be done during this process.
Will they take it all the way up to the Urban Compact Line?
No, they're only going to take it up to Houston.
Because I see they're doing reconstruction for that too. That's why I asked.
Essentially going to be a full reconstruction, the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Ryan, the reconstruction, does that include the sidewalks down?
More than likely, because we were actually talking about surface treatments for downtown. I like asphalt because it's easy for us to work on if we have to. Concrete's awfully attractive, so I told them that'd be something they'd have to.
Brick doesn't work very well.
They'd have to talk about that at the public hearing and get input from the community, because that's the way they have to deal with that. So, I mean, there isn't going to be a choice but to do sidewalk when they do the drainage.
One of the questions that I have, you mentioned 10%, or our cost would be 100 to 150,000. If my math is right, project 1 would require a $25,000 match, $15,000 for preliminary engineering, and then the ROW would cost us $10,000. Project, and please correct me while I go if I'm wrong here. Project 2, the preliminary engineering has increased from 186 to 225, so our match would be 22,500, and then the ROW of about 10,000, which would bring our match total to 57,500. So I was wondering, the remaining 50,000 to 100,000, is that all going to be going into project 3? Because I don't see any costs associated with that one.
That's the one that I needed some more clarification on, because it was, like I said, originally that looked like a 10% match on a 100,000 design amount. But then they talked about it, funding it through the safety program. DOT, this has happened to us in the past where one leg of DOT,
It's getting on your shirt, that's all.
I think I got shot. But one leg of DOT planned a project and funded for engineering. At the same time, this project was coming through the pipeline at ATRC. So that's why I say that based on all our conversations with them and the problems that or the anticipated having to determine if we had to go out to a referendum to secure the matching funds, or if they would just do the the engineering portion of the project, the matching funds for that, that was where the questions came in. But my last impression was that they would be funding at least through preliminary design, through the safety program.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, regardless of what it costs, if it is 10% or if it is up to the 150,000, it's a lot of work that will get done for our share of it.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I definitely support is to get this project going and to support all these projects is that if Main Street and Canal Street 196 intersection, all the way up and everything's going to be torn apart. If the town of Lisbon wants to invest in any improvements to, downtown Main Street for the coming years, that's the time to do it. And I would like to see the staff work on, or even the council have some workshops, and what are 196 committee, what is our vision, what do we want that to look like? Because if we're going to tear it up once, let's do it right the first time, even if it costs money, so in 5 years down the road, we're not doing the same thing. And we talk about investing in our community, this is the perfect way to do so. Yes, Tracy?
Just real quick. When you're looking at that, Lisbon also has an adopted downtown plan, so that's really the plan that you gotta be looking at if you're doing anything in the downtown area.
For sure.
Planning board are part of this.
I think it's important for us to all collaborate together. The 196 committee, the council, the administration, the planning board, all have these, have these joint workshops and meetings to get this ironed out. So when we get ready to do the budget, or whoever's here is doing the budget, they know what that's going to cost. And I think it's important that we do that. So I would like to see that ball start rolling sooner than later, so we can get this on track. All right. Any other comments or questions on this? I know Ryan had to run away because he was shot, but I'm sure we can get them answered somewhere. Okay. All right, Diane, you just want to vote that we'll sign these agreements?
Yeah, when we get them, authorize me to sign the agreements. They need to have our signature, their signature, and ATR's signature before they can move ahead with their work.
Okay.
And I believe from the meeting, we do not have to pay our share until December of 2016. I can verify that with Ryan, so it's not like we have to come up with the money now. But we are obligating ourselves to pay our 10% once I sign those contracts.
I would offer the council a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the engagement agreements pending that Project 3 does not require more than a $50,000 local match. So it would bring our the projected total to $107,000. Because I think if we're going to spend over $50,000 on one project, we've got to know a little more information. So once again, I'd offer that motion. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
All right, we'll give it to Councilor Lunt. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion?
Order passed 7-0.
Stay on Main Street.
And the next item, please.
Order 2015-311, the November-December council meeting schedule.
Diane?
Right, the meeting that we normally would have in November is on Election Day. And Twyla's going to be busy with the election, so I thought you would want to reschedule that to a different day.
When I was originally looking at this, I was thinking that we could do it a council, like a short council meeting and a workshop of some sort on the 10th if we wanted to. Because I think going 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks without a meeting, we'll have such an agenda on the 17th that wouldn't be manageable. So if we have do a short council meeting and a workshop of some sort on the 10th and then have a regular scheduled council meeting on the 17th. That's what I was thinking. Or we could play by ear and I could call a meeting if the administration thinks we have enough for an agenda. What would the council like to do?
I'm fine with that.
Schedule one for the 10th and then.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Would you like a vote for this? Or are you all set?
Yeah, no, that would be good if you'd vote
All right.
for it. And then on the December 1st, too, I don't know if you want to,
The council's first meeting in December is to be held on the Tuesday after the first Monday. That's its organizational meeting. So it would be scheduled for December the 8th, technically. If we
Right.
put it wrong on the website, we probably should change that.
I personally think we should still go with the December 1st meeting, because if you go 3 weeks without a council meeting, and on the 8th, the new councilors will be, and, new elected officials are going to take oath of office, that's typically the organizational meeting, and they'll have so much on the agenda, they will be here till after midnight, or whoever's here.
So do one on the 1st
First and the 8th.
I would suggest to
Okay.
keep the 1st scheduled, personally. I know if I'm still here, I don't want to be here after midnight, so.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to set a council meeting for November 10th, 2015, and to keep December 1st as scheduled.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
All right. And the next item, please.
Order 2015-312, the scheduled public hearing for proposed downtown ominous municipal TIF.
Tracy?
Back in March, I had already brought the TIF before you, and the idea was to capture the new value for 2014. So we were able to secure the April 1st valuation of 2013. In doing so, it was just a conditional TIF. It was kind of just securing that OAV. What we've done now is we've gone through and we've put together what our development plan is. So basically, this will be an amended, restated TIF, because we already have approval on the original downtown TIF. And with this will be the development program. I've also met with Kathy, and we went through all of the property. And just so you know, we removed the hydro, so that's no longer within the property. So that brought down what we're looking at for valuation-wise, less, as well as the amount of property that we're looking at. So I'm just looking for counsel so I can kind of get that taken care of, and we're able to kind of start doing projects with those TIF funds.
Council have any questions or comments? One thing you just said, you removed the hydro?
Yes, as part, when we did the original, when I met with DCD in Augusta, it was put in everything, okay, and then you can go back through and take out, because you're not able to put anything new in. So the idea of it was is that we just put everything in there within our downtown plan and everything mapped out. And then we reviewed everything with the assessor and okay, what are going to be some of these properties? So both Amanda and I and went through with Kathy and went through all of the properties. So now what we have is the actual properties that are going to be in there. There was a concern regarding the hydro, because the valuation of the hydro constantly changes. It goes up and down because it is a utility. So that property, you're not going to see with the hydro plant. It has taken on new ownership, but you won't see much in development-wise. However, the rest of the property at Varumbo, whether it be the maintenance building, the mill itself, and the rest of the property, you're going to see that's where the development will happen, but not so much on the hydro. So with the hydro, you're not going to gain anything in that as far as valuation. The new value, what you'll get, is on the actual new development that happens in the other areas.
So this TIF that the hydro is part of, when was this TIF negotiated?
You voted on that I had to have it up at DCD in March.
But this council negotiated, or did the TIF?
No. The idea of the TIF is that nobody was getting anything in regards to that. It was basically pulling it together to secure the 2013 original assessed value, because there was new value added in 2014 with new projects. Okay, so I brought before council the downtown TIF.
Remember that.
Okay, and then there was question after, I believe when Bill Van Tyning had spoke with you in regards to the hydro, including that property in the downtown TIF, because it fluctuates too much on valuation. So council had asked to have that removed. This is the final document for final
Okay.
approval. That's
All right.
basically what it is. You've already approved it. This is just correcting everything and making those amendments. That's why it's really amended and restated.
Okay.
Because we did not have a development plan in there, so it didn't, because within the TIF, you have to outline everything in there for your projects. You have to have cost estimates to that. You have to do, quote the state statutes on, for the allowance to be able to do that, as well as we had to go through the downtown plan and quote where. So when they look at that document, the development plan, everything is right there. So it has on there what page, where it is outlined within the downtown plan, because those two have to mirror one another.
Okay, that settles me, because I was a little concerned with how it was portrayed, that this was a different TIF that was negotiated, and I was going to say, well, the council needs to be part of this process, so I want,
No.
I'm a little settled now, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
It was a conditional TIF.
It was a conditional, it was just for that. So, yeah, what you're going to see now, it will be the full document. And then within the document, and then I think what you're referring to is for the credit enhancement agreements. The and then that's why it's an omnibus TIF. So the credit enhancement agreements for any developers is really the criteria that will be based on the development. So if somebody's coming in and going to invest on a project and put $4 or $5 million, that's a significant investment, as well as the job creation that will come along with that. So that's when you have council will have the way of, okay, if it's just this little project and they're asking for a TIF, well, does it qualify for meet our standards and what we want to? That's how Kelly Park is set up. It's the same way. It's based on the investment and the job creation that goes in there as how much that they get back.
Thank you for explaining that. The last question I have for you is, the funds that were captured, what are you thinking that dollar amount?
Well, right now it's not going to be much. I mean, we look at one of the things in going through the actual development program is it certainly exceeds the cost estimates more than what we'll see within the TIF, is because I calculated everything. I was very conservative with the calculations. It's not like I have a project before me that's going to be millions of dollars that I could use that new value. I went on the value that was already there because that's all I had as a baseline to use. So I was very conservative on my projections.
So what is that number?
That number was based on new value each year was like 500,000. So, I mean, when it all gets down to the percentage on what you get, you'd be looking at maybe $600,000. The idea of within what the projects are doing, you're talking about everything that we've been wanting to do. It is, setting up a facade program. It is, the streetscapes. It is new lighting. It is new sidewalks. It's all those infrastructure type projects which you're able to use as far as for the TIF. The beauty of this, and this is what's so unique, is because I don't think anybody else really within the state has this, is that whatever new projects are happening in this area, and whatever new projects are happening in this area, where you're capturing that new value. So basically, you have Dollar General going up. We're going to capture all that new value that we're able to put back into the community as far as for projects. And that's the beauty of how that works. Because I was able to sell it that, we are one community, one municipality, but there are two post offices. We have two downtown areas, and I needed to be able to have funding for both of those areas, which need it.
Very good.
So that's how I created that.
Tracy, when you say 600,000, is that land value or is that the yearly pay-in?
That would be the yearly pay-in by the time, you're done. The TIF is actually for 30 years.
Right.
So, I mean, your calculation as far as on the 30, that's the maximum that you can go on that. But again, those values would change based on new investment. So when you look at your projections and how you come to the figures, is that you start off with your base. So your base is exactly, so for 2013, I had to go through every single property within the TIF district that we were including and look at what that base was for that valuation. And that's how I had to calculate that. So if you have something for $300,000 of value and they come in and put in an extra $2 or $3 million, that 300 valuation still stays the same. what you're capturing on is that new value, which the new value you end up losing as far as for the county, and, you know, it's like if you take a dollar bill, it's 40 cents to 60 type of thing, so.
Any other comments or questions on this? All right. Is there a certain day you're looking for?
Well, I kind of went in and looked at the calendar real quick, is because I need to do my 10-day notice, and I still gotta go back through and, because we've been going back and forth with our projects and cost-wise and making sure everything is accurate, that I would like to do it for the second meeting in November, so that way it will allow me time to have everything, together, get my public hearing notice out, and then have the documents for anybody to view,
The 17th.
17th.
Okay.
If I could.
Open the floor for a motion.
Make a motion, public hearing on the 17th of November.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Councilor Lunt. Any discussion? All those in favor of setting the public hearing to November 17th.
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you, Tracy, for all your work on it. And the next item, please.
Order 2015-313, the cemetery fees.
This item is on the agenda this evening, not for a vote. It's for discussion purposes. I'll just briefly go over it real quick, and I believe the manager has some stuff. This was brought back to us because we asked, or Mr. Janasco asked about perpetual care in some wording, and I know Councilor Garrison had some objections to what type of motor vehicles were allowed in the cemetery. So I believe Diane has added this on the agenda so we can talk about any changes that we would want. The administration can then go back, make those changes, and bring it back to us for a first reading. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yes. Let's refer to page 39. Section 19, I think that's what Councilor Garrison was talking about. So if you want me to revise that, I can do that. We're going to have to do an amendment to this ordinance anyway, so we might as well do everything at once. So if you want me to delete anything out of section 19, just let me know what that is. And under section 20, the pricing, number 1, lots in accordance with the type and size of lot sold. I think we need to determine and define what the size is. And the standard size is 3 feet, 3 inches by 10 feet. That's a standard size, and we should determine that, or at least put that in the ordinance. The other thing is on the fees. By state statute, we have to set aside, at a minimum, for the sale of a cemetery lot, 30% for perpetual care. We already have perpetual care set up for the Davis Cemetery, and this would only apply to the Davis Cemetery. So we, at a minimum, 30%. The difference between what you would charge and that 30% can go towards the maintenance, and you can spend it during that year on the maintenance. I'm just not sure how. I've got to talk to the auditor to see how he would want us to do that. If we can't spend it on the maintenance, it does not go into undesignated fund balance. I talked to Attorney Stockford, and he said, if you are not able to spend it during that year that you receive the funds, then it would need to go into perpetual care. So typically, you don't get a revenue in and expend it back out. So that I've got to figure out how the auditor would want us to do that. But at a minimum, we have to do 30%.
Does anyone have anything on this before I start? Working in the funeral service myself, I was able to call and talk to some different cemeteries, administrative bodies for cemeteries. And a lot of cemeteries are, a law is defined such as one traditional burial, such as as a casket, or one traditional burial and one cremation, or 2 cremations. In the area, that's typically how a cemetery law is defined. They don't, such as in Brunswick, they don't define them only based off of size, because what could happen was we could all die and I could buy us a cemetery lot, but if there's no designation of what that means, as long as the urns for if we're all cremated would fit in that one area, all 7 of us could be buried under the one lot technically. So this way here, you don't only have size, but you also have what can be buried there. So a whole family of 20 and it's buried because an urn is only this big. So 20 people could be buried in that size. So I would suggest that we look at adding language in, as the manager had mentioned, about size, but also identify what can be buried in that lot. And I would also suggest that in the schedule of fees, find my place again here, we add an administrative fee. A lot of cemeteries, it's a new thing that's happening because so many committees are no longer caring for the cemeteries because of funds we're losing funds. So if a veteran is buried in a cemetery, there's state law that says how a cemetery has to be maintained. So they are now charging what's considered an administrative fee. So when someone passes away, they call the administrator of that cemetery. The administrator goes out and they mark where that grave is. So when the grave opener comes to open the grave, they know where it is. And it's also funds that the town would then have and to spend one way or another, but the manager would have to figure out with the auditors how we would allocate those funds and how they could be spent. But it's another way to gain money off of these cemetery sales and to help maintain them. But at the end of the day, if Hillside Cemetery on High Street, that commission no longer wants it, and the town will have to take it because there are veterans buried there. We need to make sure that we have a policy in place here and a fee schedule here that can not only accommodate a small cemetery, but very large cemeteries to move forward. Anybody else have anything on this?
I don't know anything about it, so I'm just listening to you.
Pretty good.
Okay. Diane, so you want to
Yep.
look into that stuff,
Will.
and we'll put it back on the agenda. Might as well do it right the first time,
That's
then keep
right.
going back and fixing it. All right, so we'll table this to a new agenda. And the next item, please.
Order 2015-314, the sale of town-owned property reserve account.
Yes, due to the sale of recent tax-acquired property and the property on the Ridge Road, we have approximately $78,000 now in the sale of town-owned property, and I would like you to authorize me to set up a reserve account to be known as Sale of Town-Owned Property, Capital Reserve Fund for the acquisition and reconstruction of the Town of Lisbon capital improvements, including roads, buildings, and other real property, and to direct that proceeds from the sale of real estate owned by the town shall be deposited into the Town of Lisbon Sale of Town-Owned Property Capital Reserve.
Everybody have anything?
So she needs a vote, I'll make a motion to
Okay.
approve.
We have a motion from Council Bigford. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Mativier. This is a great asset, and as I just talked about with Main Street, this is a
Yes.
great way to help build that kitty, so when that time comes and we have some funds there and we don't have to foot it all at once. So I appreciate you, and I'm sure Ed had something to do with it, putting this proposal together to help us move forward. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
And the next item, please.
Order 2015-315, dispatch contracts.
Diane, if you have anything, and then I'll invite the chief to come
Sure.
up and...
Just on starting on page 41 through 67 are the two contracts that are up for renewal. They expire in December. And I think on page 42, number 4, that's probably where we're going to need to have the most direction as we move forward on renegotiating the contracts. And then the chief wants to come up if he has anything to add.
Could I don't know what page 42 is. My numbers are different on the contracts that I have.
It's the fee schedule, what they pay us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What I am going to ask the council to consider is that we maintain similar language that's in the current contracts. The fee schedule is, we have to remain competitive because we have Androscoggin out there that copied our fee schedule. We have LA 911 and we have Winthrop Comm. so we cannot be doing a lot with that fee schedule. There is a price cap on it that I think we ought to consider as well. I think we ought to have language in the contract that does allow us to have a reopener on fees, just in case some unexpected thing happens that no one has any control over, like medical insurance going up 100%, things like that in the future. The current contract is in effect until the 31st, and there is a board of directors / advisory committee, which is part of that entire contract. I think it's important that we get these people together next week to sit down and work together to negotiate renewed language, new contracts. I'd like to see a multi-year contract again, similar to what we just had. And again, really don't be concerned about that because there's always termination language for all parties concerned in those multi-year contracts. So, and the termination language is in the current contract now, so it doesn't matter if it's 2, 3, 10 years, there's termination language in it. But we definitely need to get going on it ASAP. Durham and Green have both been in communications with me, and Green really it's on their agenda for November 1st, I believe, as if that's a Monday. I think that's a Monday.
Sunday.
I think it's a Monday,
Sunday.
first or second.
Second's a Monday.
It's going to their Board of Selectmen on that date, so that's what I'm saying, next week, we really need to get motivated.
Does anybody have anything on this?
I do. You said we're competitive with other communities as far as that. I mean, where are we, lower than other communities, or?
Well, actually, we're higher than the county now, because the county has not made the annual adjustments that we did.
The only reason I ask that is because from what I've heard from, we've had that meeting not too long ago, and people talking about how we're superior to everybody around us as far as the way, and I don't doubt that. I know the communication center does a good job. With that being said, I think we should be able to get more than surrounding places and other communities what they're charging.
Well, again, we are higher than Androscoggin right now. Androscoggin has made no adjustments to the fee schedule since they put our fee schedule in their Xerox machine and copied it 3 years ago. They've made no adjustments. We've made annual adjustments to ours. First year was, I don't remember the percentage, but the first year was the adjustment to see how the whole program was operating, and it was 4 or 5%, I don't remember the number. And then the other years have been in the 3% range, which is the cap.
And you've got it capped at 3% right now, right?
Yeah. And the current budget, current communications budget, I understand all the realignment that took place and with health insurance and all the insurances and telephones that were all in different parts of the budgets. We always had that, but it was all realigned this year, so it would be department specific, which I totally understand. That realignment aside, the operational budget for communications only went up 1.54%. And all the other pieces that are into it, we had in other areas of the budget already. So communications was 1.54%, and we're probably going to be charging the outside communities the 3% cap. That's what Diane and I have talked about to finish off this, because that was effective July 1st. So Durham and Green would only be billed for 6 months before we had a new language.
Oh, Tracy, we got to keep that one door open because it would be considered an executive session, so public has to know that they can come in. Thank you. All right, sorry to interrupt that.
I had one more question on that. Now, you said as far as a contract, if we go 2, 3, or whatever years, it can be, you could end that, but is there a fee if there is no fee if we say in a year's time, we say,
No.
okay,
No, there's no fee attached to the termination language. It's in your current contract.
okay, yep,
You probably have it in one of the articles.
all right, just making sure, yep,
But that's standard language in multi-year contracts.
yep.
If the individuals you're talking to for contracts didn't go with us, what are their other options other than county and LA 911?
Winthrop Call.
Winthrop come, and how do we compare to them?
I don't know.
Be nice to find out.
I think we'll soon find out because I believe Green is getting numbers from them.
Because, I mean, if you get what you pay for, and if we're giving them such great service, they should be paying for it.
I would concur with you guys. I was going to mention tonight anyways that had not talked to any of them, so I didn't know what their perspective was, that we heard when we started talking about going away from the communication center to county, how important it was and how good our comm center is. And there's no question how good we have our comm center is and what they perform. But I think we need to be charging more for the comm center, or at least look at it, because if we really are as good as people say we are in the industry, then communities will be willing to pay more, in my opinion. And look, I read these contracts, and the fee schedule is aggressive. I agree, and I appreciate everything that the administration did. You weren't here when they first started this stuff, but to recoup some costs. But I would like to see us recoup some more costs, because when we look at, for example, you take the budget and take away the revenue, and then break it down by town. Look how much Lisbon pays for the comm center when the revenue's gone. And then we have a neighboring town such as Sabattis, which is not as big as us, but I mean, they're pretty decent size, and they don't pay nearly as much as we do to have the comm center, but they're getting the same service. So I would like to see you guys go back and really negotiate hard and see what else we can get, personally. That's my 2 cents on it. Anyone else have anything on it?
I'm gonna put 2 cents in.
All right.
We got one town, because of what we've been doing, we've got one town that's probably gonna leave us. We haven't been able to get any other towns to come on. And I'm gonna tell you, we are right on the verge of being the only person in the comm center. If we try to power this up and make it too expensive, we're gonna be the only one there. That's my opinion. We'll be the only one running it. We won't have anybody there.
Again, originally we were a solo unit.
Yes.
And over time, we brought in about $70,000.
Mhm.
It's about that in revenue now.
Yep.
And I will, you people are elected officials in towns, you know what you do with the budgets. And the other towns, if they're getting option A and option B, and they're gonna save a considerable sum of money with one of those options, they're gonna go to it. So my concern is if you get too overly aggressive in your compensation for your fee structure, you're gonna lose the $70,000 that we're getting now in revenue at some point in time. If not tomorrow, then some other time. But we do have one town that is on the verge, and that's Green. They've made it very clear to us that they are reaching out to another comm center. They really do want to stay here. They've made that clear. They want to stay here. They're totally set up here. They like the way it works. But things have happened, and they're discouraged with the way things have happened, and now they're reaching out, and they're getting to the point where they need to make a decision ASAP.
Now, if we didn't have these other communities, let's say all of these communities jump ship, which we only have 2 contracts that are ready to jump ship, or could at this point in time, because we haven't got notice from the other one. When we took on these other communities, what was the increase in cost?
The thing we added was 40 hours. We added 32 hours in part-time coverage. That was it.
Do you
32
know-
hours in part-time coverage.
Do you know roughly how much that is?
was in the range of $20,000, and we brought in 70,000, so.
It's no shame that we have a gain. We do have a gain with that revenue, and that's important. But no way do I want to see these towns jump ship. But I do think that if they want to be here, they'll pay. I mean, not astronomically high, but I think we should try to go after more money. Everything is increasing, and if we can't, we can't. But I think we should give it a fair shot.
I think we have to know what the other dispatch centers are offering for prices, so we can know how to compete with them. If we try to charge a lot more than they're offering,
Yep.
Other towns might say, okay, Lisbon's better, but we don't want to pay 20% premium, even if it's 20% better service. Especially the smaller towns, probably they're gonna look most at the money.
I think you guys have a consensus on where we stand. Do you?
So, do you want it, are you gonna give us the authority to negotiate and sign the contracts, or do you want us to come back with?
I want it to come back because it's a contract, but that's my own opinion.
I'd kind of like to see what it is, but
Yeah. So, everyone else good with that? For it to come back to us after they negotiate? Okay. Looks like you have a consensus for that, and it looks like you have a consensus to try to do a little bit of negotiation here with these towns, or these two towns we have up.
Well, again, I think we need to get our homework done as best we can next week, because Green's on a timetable as well
Yep.
now. And they've waited till the 11th hour to make their decision. And your next meeting is,
The 10th.
Now just remember, you're selling a Mercedes-Benz, you're not selling a Ford.
no.
If we,
I'd rather have the
I wouldn't sell
but
Ford
this is
anyway,
me.
so, yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy on that one.
Would it help if we had an emergency meeting
I
if
was
we
just gonna
have
say
to
that.
for next week? Because I'd rather have a meeting than lose, a bunch
Yeah.
of revenue.
I have to agree, if we have to.
Would that make
The
a difference?
requirements, then
I mean, it's 2 weeks difference. Would that make a difference? Do you think in negotiations with them? Are they that tight?
Said it, the 1st is when they're meeting?
I think their meeting is the first or second. What day is that?
Monday's the second.
Next
Hmm?
week?
Monday's
I
November
think,
second.
I think their meeting,
What are you saying,
I think
next
their,
week, Tuesday?
Be 2 weeks from
their
yesterday.
manager told me he had to have something by
Next year.
Monday, this November, the first Monday of the month.
Second.
So we could meet the 27th, which is next week on Tuesday, and that would be before then, if you need
Well,
approval.
we're gonna need time to set up that, bring the towns in to sit down and hammer this out. And we're gonna do that next week. That's the only option we have, so,
Okay, well, we can't meet the 3rd because
I
it's
think if we
election
can,
night.
if we can get a TA with them next week, tentative agreement, then at least they'll be somewhat comfortable with moving forward. But we'll try to get a tentative agreement with them and go from there.
You guys good?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you guys know what to do from here.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item, please.
Order 2015-316, the legal fees for the county lawsuit.
I just wanted to give you an update on where the legal fees stand for the county lawsuit. They've spent to date $15,000 on legal fees. Our portion of that is $1,060, and you've already approved up to $1,500 to be spent on legal fees. I don't know how much more it's going to go, depending on what the judge decides. The defendants have filed a motion to dismiss and a motion for sanctions, and the parties have finished their briefing on the motions. So the next thing to happen is a decision or oral arguments on the motions. We don't know that yet, and that could be 2 or 3 more months before we find out on that. So if you recall in the agreement, under the terms of the agreement, all parties that signed on to the lawsuit had the option to opt out when the total expenses reached or exceeded the $15,000. So if you want to continue on to see what happens next, there's no action to be taken tonight.
And what do we pay for the total county tax?
We pay $582,000 for our $582,603, plus we pay an additional $18,000 for the PSAP fee.
So just to put that in perspective, we spend $600,000 every year on county tax, and this is an issue of, do we have any control or representation over that money, and or are we just going to be sent this bill that we can't control and that we get the blame for?
Have any other towns dropped out so far?
Just Livermore.
So now we're down to 12 towns in the lawsuit?
I think it wasn't Livermore, one of the ones that didn't opt in at the
I think they were the one
beginning,
that,
and they
right,
came in at the
jumped in
end.
later and then came out, so I don't know what their deal is.
Turner is going to continue on with it. And Lewiston has their meeting tonight, I think. I think they're meeting tonight on it.
Okay.
Or next Tuesday, I can't remember, but.
And I think it's just very important that we have that representation if the county commissioners cut us out entirely. We're responsible for funding them, but we don't have any say in it, and I don't understand how that's supposed to work at all, that it's just gonna be taxation without representation. The commissioners are mad about their personal health benefits, but yet they're wrecking the whole language of the charter by doing that, and I think it's just very irresponsible on their part.
I've had the opportunity to attend one of the county budget meetings 2 weeks ago, and I plan on attending the one tomorrow night. And to say the least, it's a comedy show. And it's a comedy show because the county budget committee really does not know. They don't know where their jurisdiction is. They don't know what's going on. The commissioners have refused to provide them with information. The commissioners haven't attended those meetings. The county treasurer hasn't attended the meetings. So it's basically them trying to do a county budget with no explanation on anything other than what they've been given. Now, I know the county commissioners have their excuse of saying those people on the budget committee didn't attend county budget meetings, but I think they have an obligation to help this committee out. So I fully support staying in this for the long haul.
I'd like to say also that I saw that letter, and they never informed us that we should be attending their meetings. They never said in advance they were changing the way the meetings were being run or the way that's been done for decades. So, I think that's a very weak excuse. I think if they wanted to change the way it was done, they needed to notify the people on the board before they made a change.
So we don't have to take a vote if we're going to opt
That's
out,
right.
but does anybody want to opt out? And if so, you can make a motion. All right, seeing we are unanimous, we'll move on to the next item, please.
Resolution 2015-317, the Androscoggin County Charter Amendment.
And out of that meeting last week also came this resolve that they encouraged all the communities to take back to their councils to state that they oppose the county charter amendment that's going to be on the November 3rd referendum for everybody in the county to vote on. And what that amendment will do is it's regarding the Budget Committee's authority over elected officials' wages and benefits. And what it would do is just make that, they would have no authority. They would just be advisory only. That's what the change in the charter is.
Unfortunately, the way they've written it makes it sound like it's more restrictive, but it actually is enshrining the idea that they don't have to get any authority, anything from the Budget Committee at all, and they just have absolute authority. I think it's very deceptive.
In our packet on page 71, we have a copy of a proposed resolution. Does anybody want to have anything to discuss about it? I'd open the floor for a motion one way or another.
I think we got to adopt the resolution.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion from Councilor Bickford and a second from Councilor Lunt to adopt the resolution here as presented. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the resolution?
Order passed 7-0. This is resolution for signature.
Thank you. And the next item, please.
Order 2015-318, the tax collector small claims court proceeding for delinquent personal property taxpayer taxes.
These are for taxes from 2009 up through 2015. We have sent out notices to everybody, explain that the next step in the process would be small claims. I do have some payment arrangements. People are making payment arrangements, and some have just not contacted us at all. So the next step in the process would be to serve them for small claims court. So that is what I am asking you to authorize me to begin that proceeding. What's going to happen out of this is if I get the judgment, I can record that at the Registry of Deeds in the form of a writ of execution, and that's similar to a lien. And that will protect us in case they want to sell anything, then we'll get our money. And we can continue on further through the process until they pay. A lot of people, once they get served, will pay. A lot of people will not go to court. It's going to all depend on how much they owe, but we have over 80,000 that's owed in personal property taxes.
Unfortunately, this is another mess that we're cleaning up from previous administration. One of the questions that I would have would be, say we have somebody that owes $500 in personal property tax, but we're not even going to get 3 hours of attorney fees covered if that person wants to pay $500 after the judgment. are you going to go through as the administrator and say, all right, this case, if it goes to court, will cost approximately X amount, but we're only going to get X amount, so it's not worth our time?
We're not gonna have an attorney do this.
You don't, but if we have to take someone to court, no attorney
No,
will be
no,
involved?
small claims, I can do it.
Oh, you do? Okay, perfect.
Small claims, you don't have an attorney.
So you're going
And
to
you
be,
recoup your costs too, that gets added on to the debt.
so you have to have no attorney assistance? Oh, perfect.
No, the only time you would need to is if the debt was more than what you can take the small claims, then you would have to get the attorney to take it as a civil judgment. So you would, through the civil process, then you would have to hire. And in some cases, we may have to. There aren't too many, there's a couple here, 2, 3. There may be a few on the list here that would exceed the small claims.
Okay. I just thought because it was municipal that we would have to have an
I can
attorney.
do it.
Great. Any other comments or questions on this? All right, open the floor for a motion.
I'll make the motion to proceed with a small claims court.
All right, we have a motion from Councilor Bickford. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilor Mativier. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
We're gonna pass 7-0.
And the next item, please.
The town manager's report.
I don't have anything to report. I do want to say good luck to all the candidates in the upcoming election.
Great. Thanks, Diane. And the next item, please.
Is the department head reports. Diane Netto, library director.
Good evening.
Good evening, members of the Town Council, Town Manager, and Lisbon citizens. Thank you for this opportunity to give you an update on library services. First and foremost, the library continues to be very busy with a variety of services to our community. September was a month of transition at the library with the retirement of our children's librarian, Jo Jean Keller, the end of our summer internship program, and our part-time library aide resumed her college schedule. I'm very pleased to say the 3 remaining staff members, Cindy Medlin, Anita Marenius, and I, carried forward all the services, including home book delivery to our senior citizens, preschool story time, and interlibrary loan services. I'm also very pleased to inform the council and Lisbon residents that we've successfully filled both library positions, and we've resumed our regular library hours, extended library hours, effective October 13th. We're now open 8:30 in the morning across the board till 6 p.m. Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, till 2 on Saturday, and 7 p.m. on Tuesdays. Our new children librarian is Bill Meekin, and he resides here in Lisbon with his family. And Bill brings 16 years of bookstore management experience, children's programming, and children's books purchasing experience to our library. Kathy Woodward is our new 15-hour part-time library aide, and she is currently an ed technician at Lisbon High School and brings years of working with children of all ages to her library job. And I'm very excited about the new ideas that Bill and I have for a program for children of all ages. I will get back to these in a minute. What you see are some of these ideas that we have before you. The children didn't want them too close to you, not to scare you, because their theme was spooky houses, so they didn't want them too close to you. So
I appreciate that.
I'll get back to these. We do continue to see increases in the number of interlibrary loan transactions, materials that we get for our patrons from libraries throughout the state. 86 books, DVDs, or audiobooks were distributed to Lisbon citizens in September. That's a record number for us. That's a lot of materials coming via the little white van. Sometimes it's a bigger white van, but and we also sent 63 of our wonderful books to other libraries in the state. It's a wonderful program. It works well. It's convenient, and it's very affordable at $600 a year. We get twice weekly delivery, and some of our regular customers know it's Wednesday and Friday, and frankly, they wait for the truck and come through the doors and want some of their materials, so it's very popular. We also registered 31 new patrons in September, and that's pretty awesome since it was a short month and we had shortened hours. New families are moving in, and they make their way to the library to get library cards for themselves and their children, and we're happy to have them. Our 4 public computers registered 490 uses in September. That's a lot of computer use for a small library, and again, they're using it for a variety of needs. We're also seeing an increase in the number of people who seek our help for photocopies and faxes. We are now currently the only public place in the town that provides that to customers, to Lisbon residents. Our new skylight is done. If you haven't seen it, please come visit us and take a look up. It's beautiful. Mrs. Barnes came to visit last Friday, and she as well liked it, and we're amazed at the natural light that has brought to our building, beyond our imagination. It's just wonderful. FCI did the work, and they did a great job opening the ceiling and finishing the area around the skylight, and truly it's a beautiful addition to our historical building. They also did a great job choosing the materials that reflect the history of our building. It blends in, it doesn't stick out, thinking why would they put this in a 100-year-old building? The materials are appropriate, they're durable, and they'll be easy to maintain. We met with Jim Nutting of the Maine Glass Art Studio, FCI, the Shark family members, and the Friends of the Library this very afternoon to discuss and move forward the stained glass art piece that will be added to the skylight. This is to ensure that we can move this part of the project forward and get it done. I will keep council informed and come back to you with information and for review, and final decision is up to council on the design of the artwork. That will be done shortly, and so Mr. Nutting has gone back to his studio and we'll get something on paper, and I will come back to you for review and final decision so we can move this forward. Please note the skylight, the carpentry work, the stained glass piece are all being funded by the Mary Lou Shock Memorial Fund and the Friends of the Library, so it is a gift to the town. The children's garden is ready for winter. You can no longer come play in the playhouse or at the sand table. I'm very sorry. You'll have to come back next spring. Public Works removed the pump from the waterfall, and they covered that area. If you see a blue tarp in our garden, that's what that is, to keep it clean for the winter. They also put away all the furniture. Mark Stevens, our Parks and Garden staff, did a great job cleaning the garden, and we thank all of them for their assistance. He has a lady that works for him, Kathy, and she came back several times and pruned the trees, cut back the perennials, and did lots of weeding, so we thank them all. They did a great job. And now I do need to get back to these wonderful little Lego creations. Our little engineers are ages 5 through 5th grade. That's one of the programs that Bill and I put forward. We're doing them on Friday afternoons after school, and the first program brought 20 children to the library. This past Friday, with the spooky houses, some of them are a ship, I think, but I'm not sure, brought 23 children to the library, and to watch them is very rewarding. They're very busy, they meet new friends, and it's wonderful. None of them are working on any electronic device. And they're creating these wonderful little things that we display. We keep them on display. We take pictures, they're on our Facebook, and they can share that with Grandma and Grandpa. And so it's a wonderful program. We'll keep it going. It's affordable, and it's fun, and it's educational. So we are pleased with that. One of the other things that Bill and I are working is to bring the teens back to the library. They're a hard group to sell, frankly, but we have an idea. We're going to do a Throwback Thursday this week. And that brings teens to your library, and they play board games from their childhood. So we're going to set up Candyland, Chutes and Ladders, and Jenga, and some other fun games. We'll provide snacks. We'll provide some healthy snacks, but we'll also provide snacks from their childhood, Twinkies, Pez, and Kool-Aid. And they just spend time together, and so we hope that we get a good turnout. If that is successful, we'll move forward, and then we'll ask them what they want from us. We've also learned that teens like to cook, so if that's something we can do, then we can go to the county extension next door and use their kitchen. So we're so interested in moving all our children's programs forward and reaching out to private schools in the community who need library services. We have a lot of homeschool families now that come to the library. We've set up a meeting date with homeschool families once a month to get together, discuss ideas, share photocopies, and so we're opening up the doors to a larger variety of community members. So please come visit us and see our skylight, so you'll have an idea of what the design that you will look at will mean to the community, and I thank you for your time.
Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Sounds like you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you. I couldn't do it without my staff and the support of the town manager as well.
I appreciate you coming in tonight. I know that this is something new and it's throwing some department heads off, but this is the reason why I wanted these department head reports to be done verbally, so the people at home will know all those things that are happening at the library, because I didn't know some of that stuff was happening, and it's great to hear it. It's a great thing that's happening in our community, and you do a great job down there. I get a lot of compliments, a lot of calls saying, support the library, they do a great job, and, always praising your staff up and
Thank you.
down. But I
Much
do have a
appreciated.
couple of questions for you.
Sure.
I don't think you would get away without a couple
Okay.
questions at least. You mentioned Friday afternoon for those, where those houses are built. What time do you do those?
4 p.m., and it was an hour, but they love to come now, and so we're open till 6 again, so they stay. And we have color pages, we have crossword puzzles, and they browse the books, and it's just a wonderful place. I was so excited with the first Friday, and I know Mrs. Barnes is off, but I couldn't help but take a picture with my phone, which I rarely do, and I sent it to her, and I said, I'm sorry. She says, don't ever be sorry, this is a good thing. And the room was filled. And they get the word out to their little friends, and that it's a cool place to come on a Friday afternoon after a long week at school, and it's just, and we have this huge box of Legos that one of my staff members is loaning us, and it's just filled with all kinds of, whatever you see there, pieces and critters and monsters and things, and so, and it's just wonderful to see them that creative.
What was the age limit?
About grade 5, but you're welcome to join us.
Well, I thought maybe that's why Dylan was asking,
Okay.
so.
You're very welcome, and we do see parents saying, try this, put this one on, this is my favorite from my childhood, so it's wonderful
Yeah, you gotta get
family
and take
fun.
over.
Wonderful family
And
fun.
what time is your Throwback Thursday?
This will also be at 4 o'clock. Teens like to be out and about before supper, so hopefully that's successful, and we get a lot of activity with the teens, and we'll make sure that we listen to them and give them programs that they want and need. There's a need in this town, I think, for alternate programs for teens, and we're the place for it. We can help them with that.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Now we have assessing. Good evening. Don't worry about it.
So I don't have anything cool like Legos, but I do have a dish of candy on my counter.
Right.
For assessing, September was kind of broken up into the first part of the month was all about the tax bills. The tax bills went out, and once they started hitting the post office, got really busy with a lot of questions and no really complaints this year.
I wonder why.
Because the budget was reduced and we gained a little bit in value, so the mill rate went down. I didn't get anybody coming in and mentioning that their taxes were lower, but I didn't get hardly any complaints, which is unusual. But just, just a lot of regular questions, like making sure they got the homestead exemption, questioning the wording on the bill that says your bill has been reduced by 48%.
Very confusing.
They'll call and say, my bill wasn't reduced by 48%. What are you talking about? So just a lot of basic questions. And sometimes when they come in to pay their bill, they just walk across the hall to look at the tax maps or maybe want to look at their property record cards. So it was really pretty good this year. And part of the reason was because of the mill rate reduction, and also because we really pushed the homestead applications this year. And I'll give the credit to the ladies at the counter. When someone would come in, they'd look them up, and if they didn't have a homestead exemption, they would hand them the application and say, here, you want to get this in, this is going to save you money. Because usually in a year, process around 30 applications. This year, I processed about 220. So they really did a good job of pushing those applications. So that helped. And next year, it'll be even better because the homestead is going to increase from a $10,000 exemption up to a $15,000. And then the following year, it's going to increase up to a $20,000 exemption. So I try to, when somebody comes in, I always try to look to make sure they have the exemption, and if they don't, give them the application, because it's really important for homeowners now to have that, because it's going to make a big difference. After the 15th, I was able to get back to my work, and I spent the rest of the month working on reports for the state. The first one was for forestry, and that was on tree growth. They keep track of any changes in tree growth. Anybody new to the program, anyone leaving the program. That report is not too cumbersome. Probably the most dreaded and hated report is the turnaround document, and that is requested by Maine Revenue Services, and what that is a year's worth of sales. They go from July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, July 1, 2014 through 6/30/2015. And what it is, that they use that report to come up with our certified ratio. We have to provide them with information on the sales. Was it a good, true arm's length sale, or is it discounted for some reason? Was it a parent-to-child transfer? Was it a spouse-to-spouse? Was it bankruptcy? Was it an estate sale? So we have to justify why we're saying that's not a good sale to use. And then the other report, it's called the Municipal Valuation Return. And this is a very large report, a lot of information in this one. And the incentive they use to get you to file it on time is your reimbursements for your Betty and your homestead are tied to this report. If they don't receive the report by November 1st, you don't get your reimbursements. So, because probably no one would do the report if they didn't do that, because it's a long and very comprehensive report. So that was really it for the month of September for assessing. And I've already started for next month. I'm working on the backlog of deeds because everything's based on April 1st for the commitment. April 1st, it goes on the tax rolls. If you purchased a property April 2nd, that won't get picked up until the following year. So I'm working on the backlog of deeds now, and so I've done April, May, and now I'm working on the better applications, which is the reimbursement for personal property.
Does anybody have any comments or questions? I wouldn't say just, because it sounds like you've been doing a lot,
Well,
so.
I've got a schedule, I've made myself a schedule, I have to stick to it, because with the reval looming, I've got to get all my work done, so that I'm planning by Thanksgiving to start reviewing the reval stuff. So I have a schedule and I have to stick to it.
You'll do it. Anything else, anybody? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And the next item, please.
Is audience participation and response for new items?
From the floor for audience participation, Mr. Neto.
My name is Richard Netto of Lisbon Falls, at the Colonial Gardens Trailer Park on 76 Summer Street, Lot 23. Is there any reason we probably couldn't, as I brought up over here earlier, some of them cosmetic things taking place, if, provided it don't cost either town too much or don't cost the town anything. We did get some things from the transportation department for bicycles that they painted on the road and it didn't cost us anything. Mark Stevens got us that. And the other thing is, help businesses out. I know this, I believe it's on Channel 11, the Great Falls thing there, because we do our meetings. And I know there's Royston and Auburn both do it too. Could we show some of our businesses? There was one community that was doing that. It was south of us. It wasn't Portland. I can't remember. It was more south of us that were doing that. And I'm not sure if it was Great Falls, but we could probably go to Great Falls and show some of our business. Maybe we can, bring in some more business in town for the people that are in business, Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Anybody else? Chief Brooks.
You already touched on this. I was going to address to our County Budget Committee representative. I got that notification today as well with the schedule, and I see the sheriff's budget is on it with the sheriff's communications
They haven't
budget.
amended it?
Pardon?
Did they amend it yet for
Well,
our changing situation?
That's what I'm just bringing to your attention, that you sent us a loud signal that it's, not going to be this year. So that's $225,000 that's in that budget that can come out of it, plus whatever the personnel costs were that he added. And on a sidebar, I guess my thought is if the supermajority, 11 out of 14, voted 0 on every single budget line that came in front of them, they would probably get the attention of the county commissioners real quick, and they'd probably start attending those meetings. So, just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Warren?
That was my thought.
If you can get the supermajority.
Steve Warren from Lisbon. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to get out on the trail recently, but we've got some incredible foliage this year, and a lot of people are getting out there and using it, and I think it's helping the health and vitality of the community. I have a concern that we didn't plow the trail at all last year, and use of it during the winter declined dramatically from what it had been in past years. And I think that really affects the health of the community by people not having an opportunity to get out and safely walk. If they don't feel like they can do it safely, they won't do it. So it dropped off significantly, and I think it's worth, I don't think we reduced the budget 1 cent for plowing. And so, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's really an issue in terms of our ability to do it. It's just a matter of setting it as a priority. The projects that are coming up on Main Street, we really have an opportunity to improve the community with those projects, and you really need community input. The Trails Commission warned that some of the things that were done would increase cost and would lead to erosion problems which have occurred, and so the trail project ended up costing more, and there were problems that we foresaw and could have been avoided. So if you involve the community, we can really do a better job for the long run. So just to note that this is something that we should be focusing on.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Ms. Fitzgerald.
Dorothy Fitzgerald again. I'll be brief. First, I want to, this is on the agenda, but I want to commend Diane. I used to call them the Lisbon Library ladies, and now we have to say the Lisbon Library staff. You never know what they are going to come up with. I mean, I'm just totally blown. The Legos, the things, they're using their hands, they're using their imagination, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. I had occasion a week or so ago to go to the Lisbon Mill Mall. That is more than a flea market. It's neat, clean, well set up. I even bought a Christmas gift there for a lot less than I could have bought at a department store. One of my great-granddaughters lives in Durham, played hooky today. She turned 12 today. Asked her grandmother if she could play hooky. So she spent the day with me. And I have taken her before, we have gone before to the main art glass studio. She says, can we go to there again? And that place is absolutely, we have so many assets in this town that aren't published. I mean, they're just below. The Christmas gifts, the gifts that you could buy there, I mean, she loved especially the spiders, the tarantulas, the scorpions, the butterflies, just wonderful, wonderful things there. It's important to attract new businesses, but it is also important to support our local businesses and retain them. They pay personal property tax, they pay real estate taxes. We need to support them and keep them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address the council? Ms. Noto, and then we're going to wrap it up.
I'm Richard Nettle, Lisbon Falls, Colonial Gardens, 76 Summer Street, Lot 23. I forgot one thing to add. I would like to thank the town for the bicycle racks that they put up so that people can park their bikes. They got some up at the library. I know you got one here, and I see two down by the school. I'm not sure about up that way. I haven't seen any, but I'd like to thank the town, municipal department. I'm sure they were the ones that put them in. They look great.
Thank you. All right, I'll briefly respond to a couple of things. Ms. Noto, in regards to the cosmetics that you're referencing, I would ask that you would either submit a list or come in and talk with the manager, as she is the one that will directs the departments. And I assure you that if you bring something to her and it's feasible, it will get done, seeing what she does. And regarding the advertisement of businesses on Great Falls TV, I'm not sure if that's possible or not. I know they're going under new management with Auburn, but I don't know if it's something that we could look into and maybe something we can get back on. What else? Mr. Warren, you mentioned the plowing of the trail. It's actually on my list to have on a upcoming agenda for the council to decide if we will be plowing it or keeping it the same way as we did last year. As I said when we voted last year, that we would bring this back up for rediscussion to see how the first year of allowing the snowmobile community to use it. So that will be coming up on a future agenda. And if I'm here for for the coming future for 3 years, the community involvement for Main Street is going to be very, very important. If I'm not here on the council, I'm going to be involved as a citizen on it because I think it really is that important to Lisbon's future. And if I am on the council, I'll push very hard for community and put a lot of public forums for that to get done. And Dot, I don't think you had anything for a response. And Chief didn't have anything either, so I think I covered it all. If there's anything else, anyone else want to respond? All right, next item, please.
Under appointments, Order 2015-319, Civil Constable, Charity Klinger has been a request from Ace Security to make that appointment.
I'll open the floor for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
And the next item, please.
Council Communications.
Councilor Brunel? Councilor Crafts? Councilor Bickford?
Yeah. Get out and vote.
Councilor Mativier?
Good.
Councilor Lunt?
I have one thing that, I think it was our last meeting, we voted on the street light to put in at the, by Wing Street, and it's just been brought to my attention that we need to make sure that we're doing that by the ordinance, which requires that the town manager and public works director have to review that first before we vote on it, and it has to be with their approval. So I just want to make sure that in the future we're, careful to follow that ordinance.
Good point. Good, Roger.
I was gonna bring this up the last meeting, but I didn't. I think in the near future, maybe first of the year, that we ought to meet maybe once every month or once every 2 months with a planning board, just in a quick session before one of our meetings. Just to make sure they don't have anything, or we're not doing anything that we're not supposed to be doing. And if they've got something to come with us, like that street sign, the street light. So, I think it ought to be looked into, just to keep in communication.
Greg, you have anything?
Just to piggyback off two counselors, as far as the light goes, that is the only street that intersects that road or anywhere else that I could find that does not have a street light. And I've always been brought up to, that's what the lights are supposed to mark, is the intersections. And I've been missing that road a few times in the past, so a light there would be very nice. And I'll piggyback off of Roger, get out and vote. If you don't vote, don't call me. I don't care.
I got one other thing too. I'm gonna go a little bit sooner on this, but we have one counselor that is getting done. He's just not gonna run. And I want to say that, Greg, it's been a real pleasure. The last 3 years.
Thanks, Roger. But, yeah, I don't.
I will conclude us this evening. I will go on to Roger's point about the planning board. The planning board has our emails. They have our phone numbers. They can call us. They know how to get in touch with us. I think a good check-in, as we're doing with department heads, would be important for the council to do in the future with many committees. Where's the Trails Committee right now? How are we doing with the Friends? Even though the Friends are self-sufficient, but it'd be good for the council to know what they're up to. Is the Economic Revolving Loan Committee doing? We need to check in with these committees more often, and I think the planning board could be put on a schedule like we do with department heads now. And regarding the streetlight, I know what you're talking about, but that streetlight ordinance is open for interpretation. I read it, and I can see where Don's coming from with the email. I can see where you guys are coming from, but I also see a fine line there where you can go through without going through those channels. So it's, like anything, is open for interpretation. I also encourage everybody to get out to vote. This is a very important year for Lisbon, one way or another. It'll make the future of how we go forward. And no matter what happens, I wish every candidate the best. And at the end of the day, I think we are all in it for the betterment of Lisbon, and we are all in it because we want to see Lisbon grow. We want to see Lisbon develop. We want the best for our community. But what we have is we have a difference of how we get there. We are just a smaller form of state and federal government, and I think at the end of the day, although they might not always have the best interest of the state and in our country in mind, I think they do try to get there, and I think the same thing in local government. We all do have the same goal. We just, how we get there is a little different. Some take the highway, some take back roads, some take scenic, and some go through town. So, and then last but not least, Greg, it has been a pleasure to serve with you on the council. You bring a lot of things to us that without you, we probably wouldn't have brought up for discussion, whether it's in a public forum or behind closed doors. You're always doing your homework, and you bring a lot of things to the table that will be missed from this council, a lot of experience, and it's been an honor.
Well, you stuck with me for 3 more meetings, so.
Yes, I know, but when people,
Dr. Pepper he brings.
you're getting to the point
Yeah.
of going, it's coming to the end. And,
Barring any
yep.
medical appointments.
And we are all here, so that's why I wanted to say it tonight.
Get it?
Upcoming future, we don't know if the whole council will be here or not. And that being said, we'll move on to the next item, please.
Order 2015-320 to adjourn.
Open the floor for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Discussion. All those in favor?
That's a,
Order passed.
we even voted on
Meeting
it.
adjourned. Thank you.
Yep. And that goes back that way.
Hey, how are you?
Thanks
Twyla,
for getting
you're
back
done?
to me. That was really
Hey,
helpful.
I've been stuck on your radio station now. I listen to it every single
Well,
morning.
that's the idea.
Every single